In originally crafting the story, there were certain key mutants that were very important for the story to function and for the relationships to evolve.
We debated who were going to be the other X-Men. The feeling was that we needed mutants with abilities that we hadn't seen before, looks that we hadn't seen before, and obviously powers and gifts that we hadn't seen before. Therefore, that's why we went to Havok. Havok is Scott Summers' younger brother. And the real lore of the first class of X-Men was Scott Summers, and way later came Havok. This was something that I personally fought, and I think I was wrong. I don't know if I was wrong, but it didn't matter, because he had a cool power we hadn't seen, and he had an attitude that we needed. Azazel was another controversial one, because we had seen it, we had done it with Nightcrawler, and I felt there might be some resentment to Azazel because people love Nightcrawler so much. The great news was the way that Matthew cast him. And that was totally Matthew. And it made me really love Azazel.
And so we just ended up with a fair amount of characters who, like Darwin and Alex and Angel. I mean, people that don't necessarily fit together in the books, but for us, in terms of fleshing out an ensemble cast, made a great deal of sense. You do want to be true to the continuity of the movies that themselves are not true to the continuity of the comics. And so we would err usually on the side of being true to the continuity of the films, because we felt like the mass audience that goes to the movies is more familiar actually with the movie rules than they are with the comic rules.
One of the things that, possibly is a kind of a trademark of all the X-Men movies is that the casting's been incredible. Brian got the series off to an amazing start.
We grounded it with the world's best actors, knowing, first of all, that the movie would come to life and come to life well, and secondly, that then we would attract other really good actors. So we followed that tradition in First Class.
I think John Huston said this, that directing is 90% casting. I would say it's more 70% casting. I think there's some other stuff that comes into it. But if you cast it wrong, doesn't matter how well you move the camera, cut it, put the music, light it. He's right. In the end of the day, a good actor, you can just get them in focus and the film will work.
Part of the way that Matthew casts is just show me great actors. Show me great actors, and then I'll find the one that fits the part.
James was the first actor we cast. I've always been a fan of James. I think he's a tremendous actor.
When initially somebody said, what about James McAvoy for Charles, I said, it's the greatest idea I've ever heard. He will never do it. Why would he take on somebody else's role in which he's only going to be compared to Patrick Stewart?
He's not Patrick Stewart yet, do you know what I mean? Thank God. Can you imagine me trying to do a Patrick Stewart impression?
We both came to the conclusion very quickly, no, we're doing our own, this is your own Professor X, it's not the Patrick Stewart version.
Well, I thought I'd have fun playing this character to begin with. I thought there was a lot of opportunity to have a laugh, which I generally like to do. I thought he had a good sense of humour, which again I felt was sufficiently different from the character in the other movies. That was the main thing that drew me to it. Also, it filmed 40 minutes from my front door, so that was a huge bonus.
James McAvoy, one of the world's best actors. He's just incredible. And then we had a rather extensive search for the Erik Lehnsherr role.
What was funny was we cast James, and then they wanted Erik to be younger, and I had some big arguments with some people at the studio, and they were worried that he was just too old. And poor Michael then came in for the audition, and he was playing Carl Jung. So he had this huge, ridiculous moustache. He looked 45. He looked just crazy. And he did this audition, and he was amazing.
Do you have an appointment?
I want to make a substantial deposit.
We're not that kind of bank.
I'm not that kind of customer.
I just knew he was right. He's so charismatic, and I kept explaining to them what Magneto was going to be in this movie, and if I went younger, it was just going to be harder to pull it off.
Turn away, and cut.
What we were trying to do, I think, was bring a whole sort of fresh input to the story and sort of start at scratch. I remember in the sort of beginning phases, I said to Matthew, should I start looking at Ian McKellen as a young man? We're going to go down that route, and he wasn't very keen on it. I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting, so I'm doing my own thing with this now.
I think he was born to play this particular role. I really do. We were really interested in the origin story of a villain, where you don't actually ever judge the villain. In fact, the opposite. You actually empathize with the villain. So much of that hangs on Michael. If Michael were not as compelling in the movie, if he were not as human in the movie, if he were not as just watchable in every single scene, that moment at the end when he says, come with me, you wouldn't feel at least a little bit of leaning forward of, okay, I'll come with you. you have to feel like at the end of this film, I don't know which side I would choose.
They do break, hopefully the audience will be like, oh no, great things could have happened if these two men with sort of opposing theories did join forces. And hopefully that's what the audience will feel at the end.
Are you sure we can't get you a refill, Bob?
No. I know for a fact that when Matthew said how about Kevin Bacon for the bad guy, a lot of people up top were like, huh? That's weird. That's exactly why it's good, I think, because it is a different direction for a movie to choose a bad guy, I think.
You don't want a clear-cut villain. You want a villain that has many different colors and many different shades so that it's not always clear that they're the bad guy. You almost want a villain like Ian McKellen that you kind of like and that you understand. Kevin Bacon was at the top of all of our lists. We all really, Kevin Bacon's about the coolest guy on the planet, so we definitely wanted him. And we were just lucky enough that he said yes.
Aside from the kind of evil side to him, I've kind of pictured him as kind of a Hugh Hefner type. And early on, Matthew Vaughn and I spoke about the fact that the guy would be the type of person who can very easily manipulate other people.
And then Kevin's performance in the movie is interesting because he plays it as somebody who thinks, and this is always the best villains are people that think they're the hero of the movie. And Kevin plays it as, in his mind, the hero of the movie.
Just stay with the money. Stay on the money. Where you want to be.
He's basically a sociopath in that, I think that the morality that the rest of the world is functioning with does not really apply to Sebastian Shaw.
It's a quiet menace, and you know he's capable. You know he's got the brain power and that he's capable of any evilness that he wants to do.
Colonel Hendry.
Yes, ma'am.
Frost. Emma Frost. Sebastian Shaw's associate.
January Jones brought like a cold frostiness to Emma Frost. Once we decided she was who we wanted to make sure. So we had to do that embarrassing thing of, look, can we have a camera on you in your bikini? Which sounds really cheesy, but you got to know. And of course, you look fantastic.
January obviously has the looks down, but also in terms of when you watch her on Mad Men, there's a sort of, you're never going to get all the way inside this. That's perfect for the role.
Coming from a day job where there's a lot of dialogue and I have to, do a lot of emotionally draining things to go and to do something that's really different for me and fun and sometimes silly and weird, but really great, and I've been really embracing it.
Does he need man? Why does he need air? He just appears.
You specifically said I'd have air.
I play Azazel, or Azazel, depending on who you are and how you pronounce it.
He just says whatever they say now. I think he's heard it so many times that he just mispronounces it.
Azazel, Azazel.
It just rubs me the wrong way.
Jeez. I've been involved in some very big movies, slightly out of focus behind some very expensive actors, but there nonetheless. And when Matthew, who's a friend of mine, said, he was doing X-Men and wanted me to be involved at whatever level, to be involved with Matthew's films is as important to me as anything. So it's fun. The bigger his projects get, the smaller my parts get. But that's fine. That's fine, mate. I'm chuffed. I'm chuffed to be involved.
The main reason we cast him is that every film we've made with him has done well, whereas every film we've made without him has not. So Jason Fleming is basically lucky.
No, it's not that. He's a great actor. Why wouldn't you keep employing him? It's not superstition, guys.
Because this is the end of all your f***ing lives. Blah, blah, blah. This is scary shit.
When you get a couple of people who are a bit known, not that we're humongous superstars or anything like that, Kevin Bacon's pretty massive, it frees you up, and it's just nice, when you've got a couple of faces that you recognise, that's enough. You don't have to, you can give some new people a break,
The talent is really prominent in London, but the studio, rightfully so, felt that there was too many English actors and that it had to be a little bit more American. So at a certain point we had to keep looking in LA. I flew back and forth from LA to London constantly casting because Matthew couldn't leave.
They've got little Caleb, who's a lunatic, wonderful actor, really nice kid.
Eddie Gathegi, Jennifer Lawrence and Nick Hoult, just great young actors. Lucas Till, Zoe Kravitz, they're just fantastic, really good fun. Rose Byrne playing Moira McTaggart, who's just ridiculously good and lovely. I've basically said everybody's fantastic and really good fun. I must be lying through my teeth. Hate them all.
We should think of secret code names. These films, they make the action stars seem kind of, immortal and just always saving the world. And I like that you just see us hanging out. We're not always trying to save the world. I like that they just let them be young for a little while.
Such an important, huge fan base, and I'm just so afraid of, you know, you just want to do everything right and you don't want to let anybody down and hopefully live up to expectations. Because at first, I didn't really think about it that much, because if you think about it all at once, it would probably be way too intimidating.
In a way, I'm just like, reading the script, it's so dense and there's so much in it, and the special effects and everything, I was just fascinated to see how it actually literally would take place, you know, in terms of what you shoot and what, you know, the whole sort of unfolding of the whole thing.
It's pretty incredible. And I never usually get the jobs that I want, and this was the first time I really got that huge project, and it was just like, nah, I didn't get this. There's no way I actually got this.
I never thought that I'd be in a film like this, or in any kind of superhero role. I've got red hair, freckles. You know, I'm not gonna be Batman, I'm not gonna be Robin, I'm not gonna be Spider-Man, you know what I mean? So the fact that they needed a red-haired, freckled kid is amazing, and thank God.
Before we even started shooting this, I got a text from my friend saying, I love X-Men. If you F this movie up for me, I'm gonna strap knives to my hands and cut you up. So, but yeah, you kind of realize how much it means to people.
I remember that one day I was watching the TV, the monitor to the director, and I could see myself in the frame, sharing frame with Kevin Bacon, with my suit like X-Men. And I said, what the hell I'm doing there? It was amazing.
It's in many ways a dream come true, even if I was a walk-in. If I just came in and said a line and walked off, it's like I did something that I've always wanted to be a part of.
I think it's true. We have got a really good bunch of people on this, and I wish them every success.